Welcome to the Takif channel. Today, we are not just reading a chapter, we are analyzing the engine that drives our planet. We are looking at Chapter 6, Geomorphic Processes. Why is the Earth uneven? Why do we have the towering Himalayas in one place and the deep Mariana Trench in another? The Earth's crust is dynamic. It moves, it breathes, it changes. It moves vertically and it moves horizontally. The surface of the Earth is the battlefield of two opposing forces. First, the endogenic forces. These originate from within the Earth. Their job is to build. They elevate the surface. They create inequalities. They originate from radioactivity, rotational friction, and primordial heat trapped inside the planet. Second, the exogenic forces. These originate from the atmosphere and the sun. Their job is to destroy. They wear down the landscape. They try to flatten the surface. In geographical terms, endogenic forces are land-building forces, while exogenic forces are land-wearing forces. The interaction of these two creates the surface of the Earth. As long as the Earth exists, this war between building up and wearing down will continue. Geomorphic processes defined. So let us define the title of this chapter rigorously. The endogenic and exogenic forces causing physical stresses and chemical actions on Earth materials and bringing about changes in the configuration of the surface of the Earth are known as geomorphic processes. We must also distinguish between a process and an agent. A process is the force applied. An agent is the mobile medium. Running water, groundwater, glaciers, wind, and waves. These are geomorphic agents. They acquire and transport Earth materials. Gravity acts upon these agents, and these agents act upon the rocks. Endogenic processes. Let us first look inward at the endogenic processes. The energy emanating from within the Earth is the main force behind these. This energy leads to two major categories of movement, diastrophism and volcanism. 1. Diastrophism. Diastrophism refers to all processes that move, elevate or build up portions of the Earth's crust. It is a slow, powerful bending of the crust. We classify diastrophism into four specific types. Orogenic processes. The word oros means mountain. These processes involve mountain building through severe folding and affecting long and narrow belts of the Earth's crust. Epirogenic processes. This involves the uplift or warping of large parts of the Earth's crust. Think of it as continent building. Earthquakes. These involve relatively minor local movements compared to the building of a continent, but occur much faster. Plate tectonics. This involves the horizontal movements of crustal plates. In the process of orogeny, the crust is severely deformed into folds. In epirogeny, there may be simple deformation. 2. Volcanism. We must be precise here. Volcanism includes the movement of molten rock, magma, onto or towards the Earth's surface. It also includes the formation of many intrusive and extrusive volcanic forms. Many students confuse volcano with volcanism. A volcano is the physical structure, vent. Volcanism is the entire process of magmatic movement. Exogenic processes. Now we turn our eyes to the surface. Exogenic processes. These derive their energy from the atmosphere, determined by the ultimate energy from the sun and also the gradients created by tectonic factors. The general term for all exogenic processes is denudation. The word denude means to strip off or to uncover. Denudation involves four major phases. 1. Weathering. 2. Mass movements. 3. Erosion. 4. Transportation. What drives these? Stress. Gravitational force creates stress on Earth materials. Temperature changes create molecular stresses within rocks. Chemical processes break bonds. As there are different climatic regions on the Earth's surface, the exogenic geomorphic processes vary from region to region. Temperature and precipitation are the two important climatic elements that control various processes. Weathering. Chemical. We now arrive at the most critical aspect of this chapter. Weathering. Weathering is defined as the mechanical disintegration and chemical decomposition of rocks through the actions of various elements of weather and climate.
A critical concept to remember. Weathering is an in situ or on-site process. There is very little or no motion of materials. The rock breaks down where it stands. Let's explore chemical weathering. A group of weathering processes with solution, carbonation, hydration, oxidation, and reduction act on the rocks to decompose, dissolve, or reduce them to a fine plastic state. 1. Solution. When something is dissolved in water or acids, the water or acid with dissolved content is called a solution. Minerals like nitrates, sulfates, and potassium are easily dissolved. Consider limestone, calcium carbonate. It is susceptible to water containing dissolved carbon dioxide, carbonic acid. The rock physically disappears into the solution. 2. Carbonation. Carbonation is the reaction of carbonate and bicarbonate with minerals. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and soil air is absorbed by water to form carbonic acid that acts as a weak acid. Calcium carbonates and magnesium carbonates are dissolved in carbonic acid and are removed in a solution without leaving any residue.
3. Hydration. Hydration is the chemical addition of water. Minerals take up water and expand. This expansion causes an increase in the volume of the material itself, or rock. For example, calcium sulfate takes in water and turns into gypsum. This process is reversible and long, causing fatigue in the rocks and leading to disintegration. 4. Oxidation and reduction. In weathering, oxidation means a combination of a mineral with oxygen to form oxides or hydroxides. The minerals most commonly involved are iron, manganese, sulfur, etc. In the process of oxidation, rock breakdown occurs due to the disturbance caused by the addition of oxygen. The red color of iron turns brown or yellow. Conversely, reduction happens when oxidized minerals are placed in an environment where oxygen is absent, like below the water table. Such conditions turn the red color of iron into a greenish or bluish gray. Physical weathering. Physical or mechanical weathering depend on some applied forces. These forces could be gravitational forces such as overburden pressure, load, and shearing stress. Expansion forces due to temperature changes, crystal growth, or animal activity. Water pressures controlled by wetting and drying cycles. Let's look at the specific mechanisms. Unloading and expansion. Removal of overlying rock load because of continued erosion causes vertical pressure release, with the result that the upper layers of the rock expand, producing disintegration of rock masses. This allows sheets of rock to detach parallel to the ground surface. This phenomenon is called exfoliation. Large, smooth, rounded domes called exfoliation domes result from this process. Temperature changes and expansion. With rising in temperature, every mineral expands and pushes against its neighbor, and as temperature falls, a corresponding contraction takes place. Because of diurnal changes in temperatures, this internal movement among the mineral grains takes place regularly. In rocks like granites, smooth-surfaced and rounded small to big boulders called tors form due to such exfoliation. Freezing, thawing, and frost wedging. This is most effective at high elevations and mid to high latitudes. Rapid freezing of water causes its sudden expansion and high pressure. The expansion is about 10%. This creates tremendous pressure on rock walls, prying them apart. Salt weathering. Salts in rocks expand due to thermal action, hydration, and crystallization. Salt crystals in near-surface pores cause splitting of individual grains within rocks, which eventually fall off. This process of falling off of individual grains may result in granular disintegration or granular foliation. Mass movements. We move to the next phase, mass movements. These movements transfer the mass of rock debris down the slopes under the direct influence of gravity. This means that air, water, or ice do not carry debris with them from place to place, but on the other hand, the debris may carry with it air, water, or ice. Crucially, mass movements do not come under erosion, though there is a shift, aided by gravity, of materials. We classify them based on speed and moisture. 1. Slow movements. Creep. This happens on moderately steep, soil-covered slopes. It is extremely slow. You notice it when electric poles, fence poles, or trees tilt downhill. Solifluction. In moist areas or areas with permafrost, water-saturated soil flows slowly downslope like a thick liquid. 2. Rapid movements. Earth flow. Movement of water-saturated clay or silty earth. Mud flow. In the absence of vegetation cover and with heavy rainfall, thick mud flows down channels. This acts like a river of mud and can be very destructive. Debris avalanche. This is much faster than mud flow. It is characteristic of humid regions with or without vegetation. 3. Landslides. These are rapid and relatively dry. Slump. The slipping of one or several units of rock debris with a backward rotation with respect to the slope. Debris slide. Rapid rolling or sliding of earth debris without backward rotation. Rock slide. Sliding of individual rock masses down bedding, joint or fault surfaces. Soil formation, pedogenesis. We conclude with the most vital product of weathering, soil. Pedogenesis is the process of soil formation. Soil is a dynamic medium. It changes with the seasons. Soil formation depends on 5 basic factors. 1. Parent material. 2. Topography. 3. Climate. 4. Biological activity. 5. Time. 1. Parent material. This is a passive control factor. Soil forms from the breakdown of parent rock. Texture, structure, and chemical composition of soil depend on this rock. 2. Topography. On steep slopes, soil is thin because erosion washes it away. On flat areas, soil is thick and dark because organic matter accumulates. 3. Climate. This is an active factor. It involves moisture and temperature. 4. Biological activity. The vegetative cover and organisms add organic matter and moisture retention. Dead plants provide humus. In cold climates, humus accumulates because bacterial growth is slow. In humid tropical climates, bacteria work so fast that they consume all the humus, leaving the soil poor in organic matter. Bacteria like rhizobium fix nitrogen from the air into the soil. 5. Time. Time is the third important controlling factor. A mature soil has had enough time for all horizons, layers, to develop. Soils developed on recent alluvium or glacial till are considered young and often show no horizons. From the internal heat building mountains to the chemical reactions dissolving them into soil, geomorphic processes define our world. If you found this strategic overview helpful, please like, subscribe, and share this journey with your fellow aspirants. If you have any questions regarding what we have discussed today, drop a comment below. I will be personally addressing your doubts to ensure your conceptual clarity is absolute. Until next time, keep studying, stay curious, and I will see you in the next lesson.